Winging scapulas. Fun times with those, right? Yes, I've had a little bit of it. I'm going to keep this video quite simple as I can possibly keep it, because there is a lot of individuality to winging scapulas in terms of your capacity to actually, where you are versus where I'm going to show you that you will want to work towards getting. Couple of little different things that I'm going to use, so like a little band, stretchy band, just as an example to demonstrate, but you don't need that. I've got a roller. I've also got a soft, squishy ball, right? So kid's ball, nice and soft and squishy. Your serratus muscle to start off with. It attaches to the border of your scapula. Right, so there's the edge of my scapula, right? Underneath my scapula though, so not on the outside where my hand is, it's underneath my scapula. And it comes around and attaches into the rib cage here, right? Serratus, so it looks like a serrated saw edge, like shark's teeth, something that's serrated, right? So that sits along those rib cage bones there. Its role is to keep the shoulder blade sucked to your rib cage as you reach up, reach in front, or up and overhead, right? That's its role, is to keep the scapula, the bottom edge of your scapula, so down here, the bottom edge pulled to your rib cage, so that it has a stable base from which these big powerful muscles up here can then operate from, right? And the analogy we use for that is shooting a cannon off of a canoe. Right? If you put a cannon on a piece of land where it's got a stable foundation, a strong foundation, the cannonball will fly very far, right? It's going to be very powerful. If you put the same cannon on a canoe, the canoe is going to go that way as the cannonball goes that way, not very far. Same thing that happens with your shoulder and your scapula. When you are trying to produce force that way, say you can see my scapula, it comes off a bit, still working on it. Work in progress with my winging, right? So when you press force that way, you have equal and opposite force going back that way. So if you don't have all this musculature back here working to stabilize your scapula, then all of this is going to work super hard, have to work super hard to try and stabilize your shoulder in its socket. And that's where people get rotator cuff issues, impingement, all of this gunky shit up here. Right, so true winging scapula. I'm not going to dive too much into it, but it's like it is nerve related a little bit. If you've ever had trauma to the neck, yes, I have. It's a factor. It's absolutely a thing. So that's where chiropractor practitioners like physios and all that sort of stuff, they can help you with that stuff, right? But I've been down that path as well, and it absolutely helps, right? But we're going to work on mainly the activation of the muscle today, and the movement of the muscle and strengthening it, right? So, all right, anything else with that? Dance? No, all good. So, with the roller to start off with, you could use a roller or you could use the ball. Okay, it does depend on how much tension you've got through here. This is a blue foam roller, so it's a soft one, but it's still quite dense compared to a soft, squishy ball. Okay, either way, you're going to try and find the part between your pec and your lat. Right? So your lat dives down here, all the way down to your pelvis and your spine. Your pec goes this way, right? So in between that will be your serratus. It'll be on your rib cage. It's going to feel like you're rolling on bone, which you are. You're on your rib cage, right? Higher up into your armpit is, don't go too high. You don't want to be up in your armpit. But as you can see there, I'm just like at the side of my nipple right now, and you just want to be just rolling there. If this is pretty intense, you would just stay here and breathe. And let's let the chest and rib cage melt over the roller. Just trying to get some release through that tissue, right? Through that muscle. If you sit behind a desk all day, you can develop shortness in the tissues of your lat and your serratus just from that, the inactivity of like sitting in this short and rounded forward position, right? So that will also be a contributor to this lack of serratus strength. Softball, same position, you just have it in there, just be rolling through that. You'd be surprised at how well this actually works, okay? So I always am an advocate of starting soft and building up as you get used to it, as you get better, right? So that's gonna help you just to release, build a bit of awareness through that muscle. And then getting the serratus to actually work. For years, that was a really confusing thing for me, because a lot of the exercise that I was given were light weights, so just small little light weighted stuff, and I never really, because I had so much strength and issues in my shoulders up the top and the front, I never really felt what I should have been feeling, which was down through here, that working to reach and push, right? So this is where we are starting to touch on some other concepts, like some strength-based principles of pushing and pulling and tension and force vectors, right? But I'm not going to dive into that stuff. It's all can get quite in depth. But what you want to think about is we want to load it, right? Because loading is what your brain knows how to activate muscles. I want to not just press forward, but I want to reach forward, right? And then I want to core compress. So now I've got maximal reach coming from my serratus, and I've got a stimulus, which is the band for me, that I can push against, that I can, for my brain, for every force there's equal opposite force. So if you have more external stimulus going into whatever it is, your body, then the brain has more capacity to then produce the equal and opposite force, for example, right? So it knows where to push against. With this, you could do this just with your, just with no band, no stimulus. I did a post on Instagram just with this the other day, and all you need to do is reach out as far as you can, and then reaching, keep reaching as far as you possibly can, and that will get your serratus actually working. That does, it works quite simply, just as easy as that. If you're not reaching, and when I say reaching, I mean as far as you can, reaching as far as you can. You might feel like a lot of tension up here. That means you need to go and do the first two videos that I worked on, is all that releasing this tissue, the tension that you have up here. If that's where you feel it, you should eventually feel it down in your rib cage, in under your lat, the reaching, and you might get some cramping in there initially. When the first time you feel your serratus work, it should like cramp and be working, right? So the other way, so like that's just a little analogy or a little cue that you can use, but you want to load it pretty quick, right? And the load, when I say load, I mean like heavy load, like body, but we need to be in the right position, okay? So I use just a little plank as an easy one that you can do. Keeps elbows still, cool. Shoulder over top of elbow, so shoulder forward of your elbow. And from here, I'm going to keep my tops of my feet flat on the ground, so I'm not tucking my toes under. And then I'm just going to go up into a plank position and practice just pushing away from the ground maximally. So here, right? So using my breath to create more tension here, which then gives me the capacity to create more length here, which is those working together is a contraction of your serratus, working to create more space at the back, right? And lengthen all these tissues through here. Contract, but lengthen at the same time. Your lats lengthening, serratus shortening. Right, so if you're at that stage where you can feel your serratus working pretty well, then there's some progressions that we can go through. The scapular push-up is just a really simple one where just be here, shoulder over top of your knuckles, drop chest down, pull your shoulders away, push your back up to the roof, drop it down, push away. You can load it from here, so quadruped position, right? Making sure that you're breathing out. So you can load it there, quadruped. You can go up into a full push-up position, so top of the push-up, right? Making sure you've got your butt on, abs tight, pressing away, right? And at the end of the day, the breath is what really completes this movement. Until I learnt to breathe properly, I never really got the right contraction or activation that I was looking for. So with breathing becomes core strength or core activation as well, and how that's working, or in a lot of people's case, not working very well. So there is a lot of factors involved in how your rib cage is positioned relative to then how your scapula knows how to work from that rib cage, right? Just back to the cannon analogy. It's always what's the foundation from which you are trying to generate force from. If you don't have that foundation, then you're going to end up with issues, right? So, ask questions, keep asking questions. Love that. Thank you guys, some of you guys for